time for us to talk about what's happening in Tallahassee, and what better person to talk to than the Speaker of the House, Richard Corcoran, who's joining us right now. Richard, thank you so much for stopping by. You've gotten to be a regular on the program, which I like because we can kind of get updates. Let's get right to the sticky stuff. Visit Florida, Enterprise Florida. You want to get rid of both of those, is that right?
That's correct.
Why?
Well, first, again, it's a three-part process, but the first part is, why is government in that business? Why is government getting into the market sector, the free market sector, competing with businesses and engineering who gets to win and who gets to lose? They shouldn't even be in that business. And even if you think they are, there are people that think they should be in that business. If you think they should be in that business, are they succeeding? You know, we have 232 projects, 124 of them fail to meet their contractual obligations. We're getting less than 2% of them, the jobs promised, and less than 2% of those 232 return on investment.
Okay, to be fair, let's separate these two. Enterprise Florida is what you have called corporate welfare, and there are a lot of people who agree with you, corporate welfare. But then you go to Visit Florida and you say, wait a minute, there are many, many businesses, not just one business that's dependent upon tourism, and we had a record year in tourism, so why not save that?
I'd say two things. One, again, why is government in the business of paying for the advertising of Fortune 500 companies? They shouldn't be in that business. But if you think they should, and you think they have a good return on investment, some people have done studies, just like Ball State just did a study, and said the return on investment for every taxpayer dollar we spend is 2 cents. So there's a conflicting...
Even on tourism?
Even on tourism. And on top of that, but even if we agree, which we don't, I won't, but even if people agree that it's a good thing, is look at the rampant waste and quasi-fraud and corruption that's going on in that place. $1 million for pit bull contracts, $1 million, $2 million to wrap a car, another $1 million for a soccer stadium, money that's going to former heads of the agency for their new companies that they're spending $9 million on. It's just a lot of...
Do you have Democrats on board with you on this?
Absolutely. I promised you, Al, this will be a bipartisan bill. I think this bill passes off the House floor with an absolute supermajority, Republicans and Democrats. I've had numerous conversations. So have our colleagues together, sitting, talking, and saying this is just, the time has come to end this insider baseball, this insider trading, where if you're in the country club, you get these millions of dollars. The average recipient of an Enterprise Florida has over 1,000 employees. The million jobs that were bought here in this state over the last 6-8 years were by small businesses.
Wow. Well, okay, ethics. We know that there's going to be a loggerhead between what the Senate wants and what you want, particularly in the terms of how long it is when you leave office that you can start working again, whether it's for a lobbyist or something else.
Well, here, the big issue that we have right now between the House and the Senate is over budget turkeys. And so this is what the House said. The House said, we would like, if you want a budget turkey, you have to fill out and justify why it's good to spend taxpayer money on that. That was one. Number two is you had to be transparent and do it at the very get-go. You couldn't stuff it in the budget late at night with nobody seeing. You had to do it at the very get-go. And third is, if you're going to do it, it needs to be non-recurring money, not recurring money, because recurring money is more valuable, and it's just a project. And fourth, what we're talking about, Al, is less than 0.5% of the budget. Less than 0.5% of the budget.
Would this prevent local officials from spending their own money their way? I mean, when I say their own money, it's money the state gives them, but would that prevent them from doing that?
This would, that's another bill where we would pass that we would say that local governments could not use taxpayer dollars to hire lobbyists to come to another government agency and ask for more money. That's ridiculous waste of taxpayer money.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is, so all we're asking for is a little account, and keep in mind, talking about budget turkeys, not programs, not Alzheimer's funding or all the good stuff that sometimes government does do well. This is about turkeys, fat in the budget, pork, less than 1%, 0.5%, and all we're asking for is let us know what it is. Tell us why it's good for taxpayers to spend that money on it. Let us know early enough, and you can only get it for 1 year. You can only get it for 1 year, and we can't get it through the Senate. You know how many of those rules the Senate has in their Senate rules? 0. They can do whatever they want with budget turkeys. At the last minute, at midnight, they can come in and stuff into the budget a budget turkey, and nobody knows what it does, what the return on investment is, whether it's good for taxpayers or not.
Okay, a couple other things. Teacher bonuses, you're looking for how much money?
It's hard to say. I mean, because the budget's tight, and here's the biggest thing that we're fighting for on the teacher side is is right now there's a move afoot in Tallahassee to raise people's property taxes to pay for education. We're saying in the House we will not raise property taxes under any condition, certainly not to fund education. This is what I'd say on education, Al, is we're going to spend more money. It's the #1 priority of the House. We have got to find a way, when you're the 3rd largest state and the richest country in the world, to end failure factories. There shouldn't be one in the state of Florida, and we're going to make a momentous move to end that in the state of Florida.
So we'll look at for that figure later on teacher bonuses. Death penalty. State currently doesn't have one, technically.
Yeah, and again, it's because we have a Supreme Court who thinks that they're a super legislature. We have a separation of powers for a reason, and that separation of powers works. Our founders had wisdom there. But when you have 7 people in black robes meeting in private, acting like a legislature. So here's what they did on the death penalty case. First, they said it was unconstitutional.
Correct.
Our death penalty was unconstitutional. Then they said, whoa, 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 wait a second. It's constitutional for all of these cases that were 11-0. I mean, unanimous verdict. For unanimous verdict, 12-0. Then it said, wait a second. It's not constitutional for unanimous verdicts for these cases in the past.
The carve-outs.
And then they said, wait a second. It is constitutional for half the cases in the past, but these other half cases, it's not constitutional. Al, I can't tell you. You read this stuff, and it doesn't. A 3rd grader can look at it and say, this is absolutely a runaway court.
So likely, though, you're going to get, end result will likely be unanimous, and maybe some carve-outs about what should be covered by the death penalty and not covered.
No, we'll absolutely have unanimous verdicts. We'll pass it quickly. I'm sure the governor will sign it, and we'll have a death penalty just like the voters voted and wanted in the state of Florida. And the second thing we will do is we'll pass term limits on the Supreme Court. When you have an office for life, you start thinking that the office, you're more important than the office you hold. And that's when the public loses. That's when all of us lose. We're going to make sure that they understand that the office they hold is the most important sacred thing, not them.
Anti-refugee bill. Is this new? Is it going to make it? What does it say?
Well, first of all, we have a refugee program, and in Florida, we're the largest state of all 50 states in the refugee program. We have more than anyone else. But it's not because of refugees. It's because of mostly Cubans and Haitians that come over here. And they're in the refugee program, but not refugees. But in the refugee program, we have about 3,000 refugees of the 85,000 refugees that came over last year. The bulk of them from areas of concern, according to Barack Obama. You're talking about Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Syria. Those are the people, the new influx. In Florida, we had 1,200 of them.
Wow.
Our law enforcement agencies say this, that they know that the program, the whole refugee program, as it is in Western Europe, has been infiltrated by ISIS, and they can't tell. And so all we're saying is let's put on the brakes before the federal government jams it down our state's throat. We believe in states' rights. Before you jam it down our throat, put on the brakes and let's look and see if we are adequately protecting the rights and lives of our citizens.
And lastly, I saved the big one for the end. Last week, Jack Latvala told us that you may be running for governor. Yes, no, maybe, in between, you don't know?
This is what I said. People said that when I got elected. And you know this. I ran 2 times and got just obliterated in races. And then I finally won a race. And I remember during that time when I was running that race, people would say to me all the time, "Are you going to run for speaker?" And I said to them, "What I'm going to do is win this race. And if I win this race and good things happen after that, I'll look at it." Same thing. All I want to do is try to be a transformational speaker who goes out there and fights for the taxpayers, holds people accountable, and does the best job possible. If I get to March of 2018, and there's only 6 months left at that point, there'll be people way out there raising tons of money, and there's an opportunity, and I think I have a chance. I'll evaluate it then.
So that's a qualified maybe. That's all right.
Yeah, at best.
You Republicans, you will have so many people running in that primary, it'll be crazy. Richard Corcoran, who is the Speaker of the House, thank you so much for stopping by. We'll get a hold of you again just before the session begins.